Trucks, built to serve.
Back here, first things first, with Coach Mangini, we're talking Cowboys. They could be adding another All-Pro to their roster. Jamal Adams reportedly wants to be traded if the Jets don't give him a contract extension. His preference? How about his hometown, Dallas Cowboys? Nick, what do you think? Would adding Jamal Adams make the Dallas Cowboys favorites to win the NFC?
Well, as they are presently constituted, I got them at 11-5 and competing for a bye. I don't think there is a truly great team in the conference right now. I think the two best teams in football, the Chiefs and the Ravens, are both in the AFC. And you look at the Cowboys, what is, in my mind, their single biggest position of weakness? It's the back end of the defense. They lost Byron Jones. It's the only spot on either side of the ball they don't have an all-pro caliber player, whether it's offensive line, wide receiver, running back, defensive line, linebackers. They've got all pros or guys who have that ability everywhere except for in the back end. So it would be the perfect fit for a team that I already believe could win the conference. They're not my pick to win the conference, but adding Jamal Adams might be enough to put them over the top. It would also be Wild's an ultimate all-in move. They already have one of the three highest paid at the following positions: wide receiver, running back, guard, defensive end, inside linebacker. Their quarterback appears to be next on the list. And if you trade a first-round pick and something else for Jamal Adams, it's so you could then immediately make him the highest paid safety in NFL history. So you would be constructing a roster that is absolutely as top-heavy as we've ever seen. No middle class of players, and then a bunch of minimum-ish salary guys. It would be a risky gambit, but if you're not worried about future you, if you're just worried about today you, absolutely, you would make this move, maybe becomes the favorites in the NFC, certainly become the favorites in the NFC East by a decent margin, and have the best chance you've had at a Super Bowl in a quarter century, Wilds.
So I like the Carpe Diem aspect if they make the move, but there was a curious tweet that Charles Robinson put out, and Coach, I wanted your opinion on it. And if I was the Cowboys, I would look at this and say, now we're out. So if we put the tweet up, the price for Adams may be more complicated than what was reported by Michael Irvin. The first and third round pick is correct, but last year's trade deadline mess involving Adams and the Cowboys left the Jets feeling burned. That could linger into the price point this time around. So, Coach, my question to you, and this is weird, have you ever experienced a trade scenario where a trade to one team is X and the trade to another team is X plus Y? So your demands are different, even though you want different things back according to the team which your guy is going to.
Yeah, that can definitely be part of the equation, and some of that can be a function of, is it in the AFC or the NFC? Are you going to have to compete against this player? Are you worried about competing against the player that you're moving on from? What type of relationship do you have with the organization? Now, you don't want to get it to the point where you're not trading or you're asking for too much because of some sort of grudge. And I would imagine New York's got to look at this and figure out whether or not they want the player on the team. And he's in his third year. He already wants a new contract. There's been issues, in terms of chemistry and prospects for the future. You got to figure out, do you want him on your team? But in addition to that, you got to figure out whether you want to send the message that guys are willing or are able to shoot their way off the team. And that sets a dangerous precedent too, that in your third year, you can demand a trade and the team is willing to accommodate you. So there's a lot of things at play here.
Nick, I want to ask you about the Cowboys for a second. How much of their potential do you think depends on Dak? Here's a team that has a new coach, new attitude. Every poll out there seems to have them in the top 10, maybe in the top 5. And yet the team is still at this impasse with their quarterback, and it seems like his teammates want him to get signed. Do you think that posed some sort of, negative attention going into this season? And could that be detrimental to them?
Well, the only way the Dak situation truly impacts this season would be if he doesn't play. And he's going to play. I am as confident in this as anything I've ever said on television. Dak Prescott is not going to refuse to report once the regular season begins because they franchise tag him. Not when the team has attempted to sign him to a deal and he just wants a higher above the market deal. Like, it's not like the Cowboys haven't shown faith in Dak Prescott. So I don't think playing under the specter of the franchise tag is going to negatively affect his play. You could say he'll feel better about things if he has a long-term deal, but I think that's negligible. But I want to go back to Coach on something, because I guess this is something he and I just see the world differently on. You're allowed to ask for a new deal after 3 years. You're not allowed to ask for one according to the CBA after year 1 or 2 as a first-round pick, but after year 3, you are. And if anyone deserves it, it's a guy who, within his first 3 years, has become the best player in the league at his position. Zeke got one after 3 years for similar reasons. We saw J.J. Watt get one after 3 years for similar reasons. Aaron Donald tried. He had to wait an additional year. I don't think it's out of bounds, Coach, for a player of Jamal Adams' caliber to say, you drafted me in the top 10, I've lived up to the expectations, I want my contract extension. Like that to me, that's totally fair game, Coach.
You're drafted 6th overall, so you're getting compensated at a high level for the 3 years of production that you've had. And as a drafted guy in the first round, the team actually has an option for a 5th year. So you've got 2 years left on your contract, not just 1 year left on your contract. And it's not like it's been a marriage that's that all the sides are excited about. There's been conflict. There's been disruptiveness. I don't imagine the team is that excited to reward behavior like that, because it's not just this contract, Nick. It's all the contracts in the future. It's whatever precedent you want to set organizationally as to this is how we will do business. And once you set that precedent, everybody's going to do business the way that you've established it.
I would just argue, I apologize. I guess the point I would make is the disruption came from the fact that they were shopping him last year. That Adam Gase got there and seemed to want to immediately get rid of the best players on their team. He wasn't asking for a new contract last year because he wasn't allowed to have a new contract last year. And you can have different rules for different players. Listen, if you're an all-pro within the first couple of years of your rookie deal, maybe we'll give you a new deal. If not, then play out your deal. Jenna, I know we're focused on the Cowboys, but on the Jamal Adams thing, I don't think he is some locker room problem. I think he plays for a team that doesn't appreciate the best player on their team, Jenna.
Wait, Coach, I want to go back to you just for a second. I touched briefly on a new coach, and we kind of sweep it aside. Every team right now obviously is going through their issues with trying to get a team together on Zoom and the chemistry and all of it. How tough is it for Mike McCarthy right now? There's a ton of potential on this team. These are very unique circumstances, and he really hasn't been able to get that whole team together. Plus, he's got this whole quarterback situation sort of hanging over his head until the July, whatever it is, mid-July tag deadline comes down.
Well, there's a lot of difficulty, and that's where you have to really take a step back and say, do we want to go all in year one of Mike McCarthy? Mike is going to have to learn about this team. He's going to have to understand what he truly has offensively, defensively, and on special teams, and to make that decision to trade away future first-round draft pick, and whether it's a 1 and a 3 or whatever it is, and then also all the money that you have to commit to that player. That's a huge amount of resources that you don't have in the future. So you've got to feel very strongly that you're going to win and win big right now. A coach in his first year with experience should have an edge in that area. But the idea of mortgaging the future in year one, that's tough to swallow.
I'm still worried, a little bit worried about Dak, Nick. And we've been talking about our countdown. I would like to debut. We're 1 day away from starting our countdown. So our countdown to the countdown is at 1 day. Tomorrow we'll start our official countdown, which is 50 days to the July 15th franchise tag. Nick, I know you're not nervous. I went from like not worried at all. Oh, countdown to the countdown. Get ready, everybody. If you look at Dak over there, 35, the price keeps going up for year one of his deal. Tomorrow it'll be 36. We're gonna Photoshop a finger on there. Nick, you're not worried that this is cast a specter over the entire season at all? Not even one little iota?
Well, the reason I'm not worried about it is because because there is that deadline. The negotiation will be over July 15th. It either happens or it doesn't. They are prohibited by league rule to give him a contract extension after July 15th. So there won't be any questions. There won't be any issues. It's just he either has a new deal or he doesn't. Now, I would say if the Cowboys opt to trade for Jamal Adams, to me, that would be potentially at least flirting with walking down the path of, do we just franchise Dak this year? Next year, do we trade him to recoup picks and reset our quarterback salaries so we can continue keeping this all-star team around whatever other quarterback we bring in or whatever quarterback we draft? Because I don't think it's tenable